I'm Clay Lehman with Resolute Property Management. Today we conclude our series on Craigslist rental scams. Today's video is, so you're a victim of a rental scam, what do you do? I was really surprised when I was doing research for this video. When I Googled rental scam victim or tips for rental scam victim, there were millions, literally millions of entries that told tenants what steps to take if they were the victim of a rental scam. But I couldn't find anything that was targeted at landlords that have been victims of rental scams. Well, it just so happens that one of our clients enlisted our help when they were the victim of a rental scam on a property we weren't yet managing. So I thought it would be helpful to run through what steps we recommend that you take if you find yourself to be the victim of an online rental scam. Now, this video assumes that someone has actually occupied your home. If you find that your property has been hijacked, which means that it's been listed for rent, but they haven't yet placed a tenant, what you need to do, one, is watch our video about how to avoid being the victim of a Craigslist scam, because we talk about the steps that we take to protect our homes. But two, report that listing. If it's on Craigslist, Facebook, Zillow, they have methods through which you can report the listing. But today's video talks about your home has been rented by a Craigslist scammer. So the number one thing that you need to do, call the police. Now, be prepared. Often when the police hear that you are a property owner or a landlord and that your property has been rented through a scam, they may refer you to the courts and say, hey, that's a civil matter. It's still a good step to take. And what you want to do is communicate to the police that someone is in the home, that you have not given rights to the home. You want to be clear and you want to be honest. You want to say, hey, I'm a landlord. I'm trying to rent my home. Someone else has rented it and placed a tenant. Now, what we found is that you're on kind of a 50-50. The police may say, okay, we'll send somebody out to help you out, but often they're going to say, hey, it's a civil matter. But at least you've made contact with the police and communicated this to them. Number 2 and 3 tips you could flip and flop, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. You might do one before the other. What I'll say though for number 2 is you'll want to gather information. So when we have come upon people occupying homes that shouldn't be there, and to be clear, we have experience both on the rental side as well as we manage foreclosures for banks, and so we've run into a lot of different instances of people being in homes that shouldn't be there. The number one thing when you're interacting with someone, do not confront them, do not engage in any kind of argument, do not, if in any way they're not being cooperative, get out of there. There's no need for you to continue in a conversation that's not going anywhere. But often what we have found is that when we've gone to a home, if the person is willing to cooperate, and I can't emphasize it enough, there's so much in the news these days about conflicts between landlords and tenants. I do not advocate in any manner confronting someone that's occupying your home. So I just want to be as clear about that as I can. But if you find the person to be cooperative, what you'll want to do is you'll want to get the tenant's name and contact information, a copy of whatever lease that they may have signed. You want to find out, hey, where did you find this ad, so that you can do what we talked about, which is report the ad as fraudulent. And see if they have information for the scammer. Who have they been communicating with? And I'm going to emphasize this again, and I may do it 15 more times during this video. In no manner am I suggesting that you would want to force this information out of the tenant or argue with them to obtain it. This is only if you find the tenant to be cooperative. Because remember, the tenant is a victim too, and typically they've lost a significant amount of money that they don't have. So, you've lost, they've lost, you're kind of on the same side of this thing. So hopefully this can be done in an amicable, and again, there's no reason to confront. So I think I may have said that enough. Now the next tip, and this is where I said you could do this before you gather the information. It's just critically important. This can all happen very quickly all together, but you want to contact your attorney. And you want to do this before you make any commitment to the tenant that's in the property. You want to make sure that your interests in the property are protected. And you don't want to make any promises or anything that can be misconstrued as a commitment to that tenant to be able to live in the home. So you definitely want to talk to your attorney. Your attorney can advise you to the laws and actions that you can take in your state to protect yourself. So again, I emphasize, contact your attorney, and you may do that before you gather the info. I think one of the reasons that I had them in this order is, like, a lot of times the way you discover that your property's been rented is when you're out inspecting your properties. You may come across that someone's there. And if you're interacting with them and they're being open about what's going on, you gather the info. If not, you'll want to contact your attorney first. So again, all that said, no confrontations, contact police, contact attorney. I mean, we'll recap again, but I can't emphasize enough how important it is not to confront the person in the home. Tip number 4 is to be open to negotiate. What I mean by this is there's a common practice in banking where when they have a foreclosed home and it's occupied, they weigh the benefits of going through an eviction versus what they might be able to pay to the occupant to vacate. It's called cash for keys, and it's something that you might want to consider. It may be much less expensive for you to negotiate an amount to pay the occupant to help them get relocated versus going through whatever the legal process your attorney advises you is available to you. What's really important when you enter into an agreement like that is that it's a written agreement. You can ask your attorney to help you draw up a cash for keys agreement, and it should spell out what the compensation will be to the occupant, when you expect that they should be out, and let me be more clear, when the date at which you have both agreed they will vacate, and your expectations for property condition when they move out. So you should spell all that out. Your attorney will help you. It should also spell out that that person is giving up their rights to occupancy to the home. But again, that's for your attorney to discuss with you. So I would just be very open to this because it can lead to a much better exit for that person. What I mean by this is when you have a cash for keys agreement with an occupant, it says that they can't do any damage to the home or they don't get the money. So that gives them an incentive to keep the home in nice condition. Whereas when you go through an eviction, I don't know, if you have never been through an eviction, there's no incentive for the occupant to keep the house nice. They've already got an eviction that's going to ding their credit. So, hey, why don't I take that dishwasher with me on my way out? So I'm just saying it's something that you might consider as a better alternative to a legal action. But ultimately, the legal action may be your only recourse depending on how that occupant works with you. The sooner that you can identify the issue and start negotiating with the tenant, again, assuming that they are open and are being cooperative, the sooner you can get that property back, make any repairs that might be necessary, and get it back on the market. I'm Clay Lehman with Resolute Property Management. This video concludes our series on Craigslist scams. Our first video was the anatomy of a Craigslist scam, or how a Craigslist scam works. Number 2 was steps to take to prevent becoming the victim of a Craigslist or online rental scam. And today's video was what to do if you find yourself the victim of a Craigslist scam. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I would encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much.